Welcome. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the signature system that's helped hundreds of high performing men hit record months, lead elite teams, and run billion-dollar organizations, all without losing themselves in the process. And later on, I'll show you exactly how they achieve those results by upgrading their internal operating system. Now, within this video, by the end of this, you're going to find out what does it take for high level men, high caliber men to be able to become certain in the uncertainty. Meaning, how do we stay calm, cool, and collected when stuff inevitably is going to hit the fan? We'll also be talking about what does it take for you to be decisive and be action oriented no matter what's going on around you. And most importantly, what does it take for men like yourself to be present at home, at work, and with yourself and be proud of being the man that you know you're meant to be? Because the best part of all this, everything that I'm going to share with you today, requires simple tools that you already have in your tool belt. Things like your breath, your awareness, your attention, and your intention. Now, we do this through the 4R growth method. This is a proven internal operating system upgrade that develops the mental and emotional fitness required for high achieving men to perform at their best professionally, be present at home, and do so in a sustainable way. Now, we're talking about doing all of this without adding tons to your already packed calendar. Why? Because as a business owner or a top performing professional, while also juggling all of your life's responsibilities, we understand that adding more to your plate just doesn't make sense. We also want to teach you how to do this without breaking down and burning out. And lastly, we want to talk about how can we maneuver ourselves to operate from a new way without having to run on stress or run on things external to us to numb our internal battles and struggles that we're facing. See, what most men have wrong is they specifically are looking for strategy, planning, working harder, and they think that something external is going to fix what they're dealing with internally. And I can tell you that does work, but it only works temporarily because, as one of my mentors has always said, we never rise to the level of our goals. We always fall to the level of our habits and our patterns. So when pressure hits, what are you going to default back to? See, when the stress becomes too big, we lose our ability to be present, and that shows up in the way that we lead in all areas of life. So why does this matter? Why is this such a bad thing? Well, the old way of doing things is wanting to create a new life with the same old operating system. But that just doesn't work. Marshall Goldsmith wrote a book. In his book, he was an American executive, and he said, "What got you here won't get you there. The same level of thinking and the same level of operating will only ever yield you the same level of results." See, the current system that most guys operate from can't hold the level of success that they're wanting to step into. And this is where there becomes some disconnect. But the new way is learning to become the man who can hold it all now in advance of the promotion, of the next big level up, or anything like that. Now, this type of work and what I'm going to share with you in the 4R growth method is not for everyone. It's not for the man who relies solely on motivation. It's not for the guys that are chasing productivity hacks or individuals that are wanting to bypass the real inner work. If you're someone who's afraid of slowing down, questioning your actual patterns that you've developed over all these years, and aren't interested in changing how you actually lead from within, then I can tell you to stop watching this video because it's not for you. But if you're a high performing man who's been successful in all of the endeavors in your life, but you know there's a little bit more for you to give, or there's a gap between what you look like in terms of success on paper versus how you feel, then this is for you. Most of the guys that come into this are individuals who are leading teams or who are leading a company or a top performing professional in what they do in their industry, but find themselves mentally and emotionally disconnected. If you're also someone who is sharp and present at work, but disconnected at home, or you can only find peace when you achieve something great, then this is definitely for you. Now, if you're watching this or if you're still watching this, I trust that part of you knows this is the shift that's going to make everything else work better. And so let's talk about what does this actually look like in real life. So real quick, those guys that I was talking about at the very start of this video, here's some interesting information about how they were able to transform. So let's take Greg for an example, the president of a billion-dollar organization. He stepped into a brand new role filled with tons of responsibility, lots of pressure, all eyes on him. And even though he was qualified on paper for the job, he was still finding himself battling with self doubt, stress, and imposter syndrome. But together, Greg and I worked together to build out the internal leadership that he needed to match the role that he was stepping into. So Greg didn't just fill the role, he became the man that was needed to show up clear, calm, and confident to lead a company of this size. I also have Will. Will is an amazing CEO who runs a team of about 10 or 12 for a marketing agency who came to me completely burned out. He told me that he was stuck, he was feeling defeated, he was feeling ashamed that he couldn't just white knuckle his way through this. And what I reminded him was it's not about trying to willpower our way through things because guess what? We need more regulation. We need to slow down. We need to operate from within so we can show up better externally. Now, as a result, Will's being able to make sharper decisions from a more grounded place with more peace, more presence, and being able to lead his team effectively, better than he ever has before. Malcolm also could take Matt for an example. Matt is a top performing mortgage officer here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And while he was still doing well professionally, he found himself feeling lots of anxiety when deals would fall through, feeling emotionally drained, reactive to everything that was going on at work and at home. And his nervous system was stuck in overdrive. But after our time working together, Matt not only hit record months in his business, he also doubled his income and he was able to reach President's Club for the job that he's at and reduce his stress levels by 92%, according to his Whoop Watch, which was one of the coolest things that I've seen. Now, these are all elite men doing great things, but they weren't missing the professional aspect of how to show up in the workplace and be better in that realm. They were missing the internal alignment that was basically creating some disconnect from them to be able to show up fully so they could perform at the level they would like. And now, not only are these stories and many of the other stories that I have examples of how this works, but also I've been there before myself. See, if I flash back all the way into 2015 to 2020, I was literally trying to chase all the productivity hacks, avoiding any of the real work, and hoping that my professional success would just cover it all up. But I realized real quickly that that did not work. So I started implementing the same system I'm going to go show you today, but back in 2020. Now, at the time, I did not realize this is what was actually going on until I started to reflect back and break this down and put this into a more systemized approach. But from 2020 to 2022, I nearly 4 times my income and developed a passion to teach this system to help men just like you elevate from the inside out. Now, in 2022, I actually did leave my corporate job and left and went all in on my business. At that time, it was up to me to create the new internal operating system to step in as a business owner. And how did I do that? I took myself through this same 4R growth method. So let's break this down. The 4R growth method is not a surface level, think more positive growth tactic, if you will. It's literally a full recalibration of the internal operating system that runs every single part of your life. So I want you to think of your mind like a garden. Okay, so first we need to take an inventory of the current status of what's going on within the mind or the garden. We need to get rid of what's not growing. We need to then plant new seeds, and eventually we need to give it water, we need to give it sunshine, and we need to nurture it so that the mind or the garden can begin to flourish. So the 4R growth method is the main backbone of literally every single transformation that I've taken any client through. So men who follow this method are able to strengthen their mental performance, build emotional resilience, and become the type of man their team and family needs to lead the way. So let's break it down fully. Phase one, the first R, which is reveal. We need to make the unconscious conscious. We need to uncover our unconscious patterns, our identities, our default mode network, if you will. We need to become very conscious of the language that we use and the beliefs that we run our life on. So, right now, each and every one of you could do this. You could become extremely aware to notice what are the sabotaging language patterns or words that you use to keep you from moving forward. What are the beliefs or perceptions, otherwise known as mindset, the stories that we tell ourselves, beliefs and perceptions, that are stuck in past old identities? Because what goes on is if we aren't aware of what's going on, then we begin to live out old identities, and individuals get frustrated on why they can't get ahead. And it's not that they don't have the willpower to get ahead, but their old identities, certain subconscious beliefs are still unconscious to them and they're running in the background. So, this first step, phase one, is to reveal. And we can't shift what we can't see. So, this is the place where we build a deep level of self awareness. not from a level of place of shame or judgment, but just from level of awareness to notice. That way we can then begin to move forward. So that's the first R, reveal. Now, once we've brought the unconscious conscious, then we step into the second R, which is phase two, which is to release. We then need to let things go. We need to let go of stored emotional tension. So many guys who are feeling tons of tension in their body is a sign that they haven't been able to release certain things from their past, or they've been able to keep building up certain beliefs so much that they are creating a internal blockage, if you will. And so what we can do is through story work, specifically my work as an Enlifted Method coach, we can dive into the specific words, language, stories, and then of course mindsets that they've developed over time that are creating them to or leaving them to avoid oftentimes or live in survival mode. And so this internal nervous system level release is done through evidence-based tools that allow for them to let go of these things that are no longer serving them. And then we move into step three or phase three, which is the rewiring process. So just like I gave you the analogy of our mind being a garden, we've now become aware of where are all the weeds, where are all the dead roots, and we've removed all of those. Now the space is clear for us to reprogram our internal operating system, aka plant new seeds. And so we can do this with tools that are able to handle the real world pressure. And we want to install things from the inside out because 95% of who we are by the time we are 35 is a set of unconscious, subconscious programs. And so what does that mean? Well, if 95% of our day is being run by what's going on internally, it's very, very important that we take time and use the right tools to go from within to adjust, reinstall, and move all of that software and hardware to update how we operate from a different place. So we can do that with things like visualization, mental rehearsal. Of course, we have meditation, we have language reframing, and each one of these allows for us to change the way that we view things in our life. And of course, develop a new mindset, if you will. And so, this is where performance becomes sustainable. Because here's the thing, if all day long we're trying to consciously think about I need to focus and think this way and I need not to be reactive, but then things hit the fan and that goes out the window, we're going to default back to our subconscious systems or processes. And if we can learn to rewire that system, then no matter what happens in our life, if we default back to that and that default is actually serving us, then we actually allow for this performance to be sustainable without us having to white knuckle our way through things. And finally, phase four, which is rebuild. Now, we've already built the firm foundation now that we've rewired our mind, but just like in the gym, we don't get fit and then stay fit. This requires consistent daily effort. So, the rebuild phase is around daily rituals, on demand tools, and in the moment tactics that we can use to build the consistency over time so that this can become our lifestyle. This isn't a quick fix. This is for us to develop this long term. We want it to be sustainable throughout all the ups and downs of our personal life and our professional career. And when we do, we begin to truly lead and live differently. Now, this is just one component of the full identity and performance upgrade that lives inside our flagship program, the Peak Performance Protocol. This is for high level men ready to master the internal operating system behind true leadership at work, at home, and in their life. So, if you made it this far and you know you're ready to start developing the mental and emotional skills to operate at your best, then you're in luck. I open a few spots each month for a free 30-minute one on one coaching call with me. Now, this is the real session where we'll unpack what's currently keeping you stuck and map out how to recalibrate your internal operating system so you can fully step in and lead in life. So, if there's still a spot on my calendar below, go ahead and grab it because when they're gone, and I'll see you on the inside.